how encouraging it was to be reminded that when we make a decision, we can always make adjustments later. Have you ever made a decision that seemed wise at first, but then over time, as things changed in your life, didn't seem so good? Maybe you felt, I'll be a failure if I leave this assignment. Remember, our primary concern must be to make sure that our life course continues to honor God. Have the courage to consider making a change if your circumstances have changed.
Now, this is very frustrating to hear for anyone that is familiar with Jehovah's Witness doctrine over the years, because it's a very elastic thing. They are more than comfortable to make significant or tiny changes all for the last 120 years, calling it new light this, new light that, making adjustments and whatnot. But then there are things that they have in their doctrine that, from a lot of people's reading of the Bible, I would say most people's reading of the Bible, that are harmful, specifically when it comes to the two-witness rule, with regards to whether or not you're going to believe someone if they're reporting about sexual abuse, with regard to the blood doctrine that says, well, no, you can't get a blood transfusion, you can't have blood or any of its four major components in any medical procedure. And then when it comes to shunning as well, there have been issues raised by the majority of people looking at just the scriptural nature of these things and saying, I don't really know if this is accurate. And yet, for how elastic Watchtower's doctrine is and their policies are, they are horrifically stringent when it comes to their most harmful practices. So I think Watchtower needs to hold up a mirror and say, hey, maybe we need to think about changing some of these policies that we have. Or maybe this is a moment where Watchtower is trying to put the idea out there to Jehovah's Witnesses that, hey, sometimes you need to make adjustments, you need to make some changes. And maybe we will see some of those changes come in the near future. Fingers crossed.
Greg and Joran Harris raised their children to love Jehovah. What decisions did they make along the way?
When a person makes a sacrifice, they give up something for something that they consider is of higher value. What kind of a price tag can you put on your child's love for Jehovah? What kind of a price tag can you put on serving Jehovah whole souled as a family?
Well, this is absolutely terrifying because, as we know from thousands of examples, tens of thousands of examples, is that parents are willing to put a price tag of their child's life in order to maintain their faith, not in Jehovah, but in Watchtower. You can the two, you can swap them out at any given moment in time. But these are people that will watch their children die and not give them life-saving medical intervention. And here he's saying, well, what price tag can you put on it? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses literally will put the organization above the life of their child. That is the price tag. It's be a Jehovah's Witness, or we will cut you off and pretend like you don't exist and shun you for the rest of your entire life. Their entire lives are almost like it has no value. The only way that a child's life to a Jehovah's Witness parent has any value is if they maintain their belief in the organization. As soon as they leave, it's nothing. They're dead to you. So it's just really disturbing anytime they're talking about, raising children and how important it is to make sure that they maintain their faith in Jehovah, i.e. the Watchtower.
When I found out that we were going to have a family, it was overwhelming for me. When you come into the truth, we weren't witnesses when I was a child. Sometimes you're exposed to things that leave you with baggage, leave you unsure of yourself. You need constant reassurance that you're going to be okay. You can take care of any situation that comes along. And my dad, he gave me all I needed. He loved me so much. I would take my mother's knitting yarn and I would tie it to his door handle after he went to sleep. And I would run it across the hall to my bedroom and tie it to my big toe so that when he opened his door in the morning, I would wake up and I could be with him. That love that I had for my dad, I wanted them to love Jehovah that much. I wanted a string tied around their hearts right to Jehovah so that he was the one motivating them and he was the one waking them up spiritually every day.
It's always a little bit sad to see someone that has this recognition that, hey, you know, sometimes situations happen in life that give you a lot of baggage and, you know, make things difficult for your mental health. And yet he is blind to the fact that one of the biggest things that is not only affecting him, but it's also affecting their children is being a Jehovah's Witness. That comes with so much baggage. Look at all of us here in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community that for years, some of us a decade, you know, spent trying to unpack all of the baggage that comes along with being a Jehovah's Witness. And he's just giving that to his children, and to the point where he's like obsessed about it. He's like, I used to tie a string to my dad's door and put it on my toe, and that's how it's going to be for them in Jehovah. You know, they will literally be inseparable from the organization. People are desperate to have their children maintain their relationship with Watchtower, because as soon as they don't, it means they have to shun them. All love stops, all parenting stops, and you just say, well, looks like you're dead to me now, bucko, so life's tough, get a helmet. Yeah, I don't know. Anytime there's something involving children, it always kind of irks me a little.
I loved to teach the children things, and I would do it at any available moment. And then, of course, at night as a family, usually on our bed, we would read our Bible together. It was the glue that kept us tied to Jehovah and kept us tied to each other.
Judges 7, Gideon said, watch me and do what I do. So I knew that if we wanted the children to live the truth, that we had to live it with them. It couldn't be something that we just taught them. We had to live our life of service to Jehovah with them. Jesus said, obviously, we can't slave for two masters. And I've tried to do that, and believe me, it does not work. Like any father, I wanted to have a home for my family. My profession was building houses, but that cost me my pioneering. And so I decided I had to quit building houses. And so I did. I started to do remodel jobs, and we looked for a place that we could afford that would sustain us in the full-time service. And Jehovah provided exactly what we needed.
It's really frustrating to hear her talk about how much she enjoys teaching her children things, because as we all know, having been around the block a few times, we've seen this rodeo before. Part of the things they're teaching their children is that the end is right around the corner. A lot of the language that is used is, you're not going to graduate high school. You're never going to grow up or get married. My parents told me, the Star Wars films, they'll never actually come out with the second trilogy. They'll never release that after the first one came out. Oh, well, sorry. I mean, that's 6 years down the road. We'll never see the end of that. Same thing with Batman when that came out. Everyone said, oh, well, man, I wish they would release these like next year because Armageddon's going to be here. What they're teaching your children is a lie. And then through your example, you're also teaching them that they should make sacrifices that will affect themselves and their children for the proclamations of a doomsday cult. Now, ask yourself, parents, is that a good thing? Is that what you want to train your children to do? Base your future plans and your current life structure on the promises of a doomsday cult that has been making promises for over 100 years now, and they've all failed? Might be a good question when you're sitting down in the mirror and brushing your teeth at night and saying, what type of parent am I? Not a very good one.
We don't deserve any of these blessings from Jehovah, but somehow He's blessed our efforts, and He's given us an opportunity to smile and reflect on all of the things that He's done for us. And what can we do to repay Jehovah but just keep going, keep trying, and keep moving forward until we're on the other side.
I cannot stand this mentality of we don't deserve all of these blessings. If you are a good parent and your children thrive and are successful in life, you absolutely deserve credit for that. I never talk with a toothpick in my mouth, but there I go. But no, you need to be aware of the things that you accomplish and be proud of yourself and use that as a springboard to say, dopamine. I do something, make me feel good. I do other things, make me feel good. Big boost. It's not horribly complicated. And this reliance on, I don't deserve it. Oh man. I mean, all praise be to, no, you did something. Be proud of yourself, because when you are, you're going to use that as motivation to be proud of yourself for something else and something else and something else. Accomplishment is empowering. And one of the hardest things to do is raise children. And if it is successful, I know this isn't a very particular paradigm, so I'm talking in general, but if they are, successful and you did a good job, be proud of yourself. Don't just say, I don't even deserve this. No, you do, because you did the right thing. Anyway, that's just a little Wally rant for the day about having this Jehovah's Witness mentality of, I don't deserve it. No, if you do the right thing and you work at something and you put your all into it and you do it intelligently and you make corrections based off of results, you do deserve it. So, yeah, stop this idea of, no.
What happens to us in childhood can shape who we become as adults, for better or for worse. If we don't like who we are now, we can change. As we'll see in the latest installment of Where Are They Now?
Hello, who is it? Hey, hi, how are you? Okay, come on up. My name is Enrique Torres Jr. I live in Staten Island, New York, and I have the privilege to serve in the Mid-Island congregation. The first 40 years of my life were marred in a lifestyle that was horrendous. A judge stated that I had a propensity for criminality. Well, no doubt he was describing a vicious person.
Listening to Jeffrey Jackson say this, sentence, him being the leader of a organization that negatively affects hundreds of thousands of children all around the world. When he says negative things might happen to you as a child, but you can change. It's frustrating because he is the cause of the problems that need to be changed. And, us here in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, we are working on growing as people because of the negative effects that our lives in Watchtower had on us. So it's just a little bit frustrating. But I think this section, I wasn't sure if I was even going to include it, but I think it does open up an interesting discussion about changes that people can make whenever they had a prior issues. And okay, maybe from a objective standpoint, they are a better person than they were, but the reason they did it was because of the religion. So does that make it good or bad? And as we go through this, I think it'll be at least interesting. You guys can comment down below. I'll give my thoughts on it. I don't know if anyone has like a monopoly on what is the right thing to do, but I do think it will be an interesting discussion. So let's get into it. And I'm definitely not wearing a different outfit because I'm recording this 4 days after I recorded the first part. You sound crazy right now.
As a youth, I was hanging around with the wrong kind of people that led me into a life of crime and debauchery. This captain in our prison came up with a psychological plan to take the individuals that had the potential for leadership and put them in isolation. I wind up or be among them. Can you imagine? They were getting beat up. It was becoming too much for me, the screams and so forth. Now, I said, if this continue, I'm not going to survive here. I did get in contact with my father, and he told me, never forget Jehovah. That was it. That was his name, and that's all I got out of it. I knew that there was nobody that could help me but God. So that's when I found myself in prayer to Jehovah. I vowed that I would make it my business to learn more about him than just his name. At that time, that's all I knew.
So the scene is set for this guy's life. Things weren't going very well. He wound up in prison. He was making bad decisions, running with the wrong people, but he did have some type of foundation when it comes to the Jehovah's Witnesses. So when his dad called him and said, don't forget about Jehovah, he naturally thought, well, all of the decisions I've been making that have not been, I'm assuming he was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, but all of the decisions I've made that weren't in line with Jehovah's Witness teaching have worked out poorly for me. So maybe I'll revert back to that and see if making Jehovah's Witness-based decisions works out better for me. And obviously it will, because whatever decisions he was making got him, locked up in prison. So that was not ever going to work. I mean, he could have said, I'm the cult of the SpongeBob followers, and that would have been even more beneficial for him than the decisions he was making. So it's not necessarily the Jehovah's Witness aspect here, because it could have been anything. But obviously, this being Jehovah's Witness propaganda, it's going to be focused around them. But I think it is good to remember that, when people sort of hit that Y in the road and they choose a bad course, and then they think, well, what would my life look like if I went the other course, if I would have, gone this other direction? That other direction could be anything at all. And no doubt it would have been better than winding up, in prison and all of the things that he mentioned.
I got some literature. I got the Bible too. Jehovah became more meaningful to me. That's when he became real to me. That was the first 40 years of my life. But the last 40 years of my life with Jehovah's training from his organization, my personality, it was transformed. The blessings that I have received has been in the area of my field service and also my teaching ability, which has helped me to be able to draw closer to Jehovah. I was privileged to become a ministerial servant for many years, field service overseer for many more years.
So this is an interesting topic, at least in my mind, because where do we sort of draw that line of, well, it's a good thing that this person changed. They're no longer a violent criminal, and now they're a productive member of society. But the sort of springboard for that was getting more involved in a doomsday cult, which is a negative thing as well. And I don't think we can blame ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses because they are, victims of this larger organization. They are being lied to. They are, being manipulated with these cult tactics. So in some ways, I feel sorry for him because he had the inner strength to make those changes. He was the one that did those things. It wasn't because he read the Bible and suddenly had this awakening moment. It could have been any book. It could have been a variety of different things. It just happened to be having the context of being raised as a Jehovah's Witness, that was his awakening moment, and that's what he was drawn to. So, is it a good thing that this person changed because of Watchtower? Yes. But could it be a better thing if he actually realized that he had the power and strength to do that himself, and he didn't get involved with a doomsday cult? Yes, that is better, because it would be better for him to not be under the influence and control of Watchtower if he actually took the reins of life and said, okay, I've made some mistakes, and now I'm going to sort of carve out this new path, and it's going to be better for me and my family and other people that I interact with in the world. That would be a more positive thing. So I struggle with it, because you're like, well, it's good that he changed, but it's bad that, it's not necessarily bad that he changed because of Watchtower, but I just wish he would have changed for different reasons and not be lied and manipulated by Watchtower. So I guess that's the real rub of it, is that Watchtower is sort of a predatory organization that targets people that are in a very low point in their lives and then uses that to exploit them for their time, their money, and their skills, which is obviously a disgusting practice that they have. So anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think about this, as far as, is it good that people change because of Watchtower? Would that person have changed if Watchtower didn't exist? I guess I don't really know 100%. So yeah, let me know what you think.
One of the main challenges that I'm facing is that I have developed cancer, and have gone through 4 cancer operations and also some chemotherapy. Without relying upon Jehovah to help me to overcome these challenges, there's no doubt in my mind that I never would have been able to make it.
Fair warning to my Christian friends, maybe this section of the video won't be for you, so maybe skip ahead like 2 minutes or something, because I'm going on one of my little rants here. But with that little disclosure out of the way, I find this really gross. I think that people should be able to reflect on the accomplishments that they've made and be proud of themselves, and use that confidence that they get from accomplishing something to do more and to keep advancing and keep growing. And I don't like when people say, well, it was because of, God. I wouldn't have been able to do this without Jehovah and his organization. No, you would have been able to do it all on your own. You're just attributing it to an outside force when the actual strength that it took to accomplish the thing came from within yourself. And I don't like when people, or an organization especially, tries to hijack that from people and say, no, you can't do something. You're not good enough to accomplish something. You would never have been able to do this without us and our interpretation of God. And I don't like it whatsoever. So if you're watching this and you have a propensity to attribute your own successes to outside forces, whatever those might be, try and take a moment and think about the things that you did to make those things happen. Think about the strength that you built up and the knowledge that you built up over years of trying and struggle and pain and research. Think about that and use that as motivation to think, well, I was able to do that. Maybe I could do something else that I put my mind to. And it's a very empowering moment for you. Anyway, rant concluded.
Γεια σας.
Hi, I am Mikolas, and this is Iron Sharpens Iron.
Μια δυσκολία.
One challenge that often makes me nervous is when I've prepared an introduction I've planned the conversation, but the householder doesn't follow the plan, and I have to adapt. Have you ever had that experience? This could mean that what we prepared just won't work.
A little bit of a trigger warning for people. If you don't want to be reminded what it's like to be a Jehovah's Witness going door-to-door preaching, then I'm going to continue to sabotage my viewing time and say maybe this next section isn't for you. But it is absolutely hilarious for me, anyway, to look back at what it's like being a Jehovah's Witness. And when he is even introducing this, I think it's quintessential, JW mindset of, man, it's so frustrating when you go to a random stranger's door that you have absolutely no context to their life or anything, and you knock on it and you have a plan and they just don't want to go along with your plan. Did you really think that knocking on someone's door and telling them, hey, look, this 2,000-year-old book says that you can pet baby pandas in the very near future and have lots of watermelons. Interested? Boy, howdy. A real shocker that didn't work. It's so ridiculous because their message is properly absurd. Even to most Christians, their message is properly absurd. It's like, wait, I thought I was going to be able to go to heaven, and now I have to be here on earth, and what is all this about? So when he's talking about, well, they just doesn't go quite, it's so frustrating when it doesn't go to plan. Well, of course it doesn't go according to plan, because the plan is to tell someone something that is absolutely ridiculous.
So we're going to discuss 4 tips that have helped me and hopefully will help you be more adaptable. The 4 tips are: 1. Know your territory. 2. Make use of the teaching toolbox. 3. Anticipate common objections or questions. And 4. Be flexible. Adjust to the householder's needs. Because remember, this is meant to be a conversation, not a sermon or a sales pitch.
Oh yes, this is not a sermon, but as you said in the very beginning of this little presentation, it is frustrating when someone doesn't go along with the thing that you had planned on talking about whenever there was some monkey wrench in the system. It's absolutely a sermon. It's absolutely a sales pitch. When you go and knock on someone's door as a Jehovah's Witness, you are thinking, I'm only knocking on this door because I want them to become a Jehovah's Witness. Full stop. That is it. You want that person to become a Jehovah's Witness, and if they don't, everything else is an L. That's the only way to get the big dubski here, is if they convert. And it doesn't happen for pretty much anyone ever, because the door-to-door preaching work absolutely doesn't work. But it's funny when he's like, it's not a sermon. It's not a sales pitch. So what is it? You're just going there to like chit-chat with people? Man, with the most important work in the entire world, in the entire universe, as Watchtower likes to claim that the preaching work is, the most important work in the entire universe is to chit-chat with your neighbors. This is so stupid.
Now, let's look at a situation where applying these 4 suggestions can help.
So, what introduction are you using?
I thought I would talk about economic problems.
Good idea. And it really suits the territory.
Thanks. I'll read Isaiah 65:21-23 and then offer the Kingdom Tract.
Perfect. I'll get the scripture ready.
Excellent. Good morning. Many people in our area struggle to make ends meet. Do you think there will ever be a time when we won't have to stress about money?
Actually, now isn't a good time. I just received some bad news.
I'm sorry. We'll come back another time then.
Thank you.
I think at some point in my life, I just sort of forgot or disassociated how weird the door-to-door preaching work is until I saw this little section. It's so weird. It's so goofy. I can't even get my head around like actually going back and knocking on someone's door and being like, hey, a lot of people are, struggling to make ends meet. Have you ever thought about a time when that won't be a problem for anyone? And, people being like, what? Go away, weird man with the messenger bag and the tie. Like, why are you here? It's such an odd thing. I get like solicitors and people that knock on the door all the time, with their little sales pitches. But nothing is stranger than when a Jehovah's Witness does it. At least they like pretty much get to the point. Hey, do you need your roof clean? Hey, do you need your windows clean? Hey, do you need your lawn mowed? Hey, do you need your sprinklers done? Hey, do you need your hedges trimmed? It's actually like something practical. But when someone knocks on the door and says something like, a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. Have you ever wondered about a time when it's just so silly? And I guess when you're a witness, it doesn't really compute. You just think, well, okay, another person that doesn't want to live in paradise. I don't know why they don't. I mean, obviously, don't you want to live forever? You dumb fool. You're so stupid that you don't want to live forever. Why don't you listen to me? But man, after being out for so long and just, being on the other side of the door, essentially, you just think, this is so bizarre.
Okay, our sister applied our first 2 tips really well. But our sisters are usually excellent when it comes to the ministry. So, no real surprises there. Did you notice? First, she knew her territory well and had a presentation designed specifically for it. Second, her scripture and talking point were taken from the tract, What is the Kingdom of God? Which, as you know, is part of our teaching toolbox. However, when the householder had something else on her mind, our sister opted to return later. That could be a good decision in this kind of situation. But let's see what would happen if she were to ask just one more question and adapt according to the householder's response.
Actually, now isn't a good time. I just received some bad news.
I'm sorry. Is there anything we can do to help?
No. I just heard my sister has cancer.
Oh, that must be so difficult. For your sister and for you.
Yes, when someone we love is suffering, we can often feel helpless.
That's exactly how I feel.
If you have a moment, could I show you something that I find comforting about a time in the near future when our loved ones will never suffer again?
I'd like that.
Notice what the Bible says at Revelation 21 verses 3 and 4. With that, I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look."
Wow. Did you see how she was able to offer this woman real comfort?
So this is Watchtower training their members on how to not respect people's boundaries. That is what happens when it comes to elders asking you questions, or Watchtower itself, getting you to self-police or getting you to police your friends. They don't have any boundaries. You can't say, whoa, sorry, no, not a good time. I don't want to talk about this. They want you to break down those barriers with simple questions and see what happens. So I don't think that very many people would actually go and divulge to a random stranger that just popped up. Like, oh, just heard bad news that my sister had cancer. I mean, maybe they would if they were in a situation where they had no one else to talk about their issue with, and maybe in that circumstance. But in every other normal circumstance, you're not going to want to discuss that with a random stranger that you don't know. It's weird. When you say, it's not a good time, I've just heard some bad news, the right thing to do is, sorry to bother you, see you later. Not, hey, let me see if I can infiltrate your mind and exploit this opportunity to infect you with our doomsday cult narrative about the world. I don't like whenever they're training their people to be invasive in other people's personal lives.
What good suggestions. In this example, the sister was able to start a conversation with a simple good morning. Of course, in real life, the way you greet people in your territory might be different than what we saw.
If there was ever a snippet of a video that just confirms that you made the right decision by leaving Watchtower, maybe it's this one. This is so stupid. The leadership of Watchtower does not have any active brain cells, as far as I can see. Did you see how she was able to start a conversation with a simple good morning? Now, in your local area, depending on the circumstances, you might need to come up with your own greeting. Have Jehovah's Witnesses' brains fallen out sufficiently where they're like, I walk up to a person and then what? Do I start doing a little dance like I'm a Amazon bird doing some sort of ritual? Like, it's not, hi, how are you? Hey, good morning. Oh my Lord. Anyway, this is all I could stand. I cut out a lot of the broadcast, but this was like days in the making, just because these broadcasts sometimes are really, really tedious and boring to go through. But hey, we made it, and if you're still here and you're enjoying it, and you had a little bit of a laugh, then I guess the journey was all worthwhile. If you're still around, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Stay safe, be kind, and Humor Mike, you better have a good-ass day. And don't forget to smile. I hit you with the change-up. What do you have to say to that, Humor Mike?